colleagues. Well, I wasn't going to do a speech, but Speaker Wentworth and Frederick told me if I didn't, nobody would really know how I actually felt. So, and I don't want to leave town without that happening. So, I owe a huge thank you to my staff, to Representative-elect Joe Aragona, Sam Olson, Danielle Brands, Alex Dempsey, Brady Kenyon, Jack Sullivan, Mike, Elliot Bunek, Tom McNamee, Grace Farley, Deb Drick. I couldn't have done it without you, and I appreciate all the hard work and putting up with me, which I know can be difficult. Ask Alex, he'll talk to you about it on the floor. I also need to thank my mother and father, BJ and Joseph LaFave, as well as my grandmother, Grandma Barb, and my Grandpa Nord. I love you. Thank you for all of your support. Now, this speech could have been 20 minutes, but Rep. Cambenzi took most of the thank yous that I needed to say, so as always, thank you, Representative Cambenzi. You saved us all time, and I appreciate it. So what is a 30-year-old doing on the floor of the House of Representatives saying goodbye to a job he loves because he has too much experience to continue? Term limits. Aren't those a bit, never mind. So how did I get here? Many of you know this, but many of you don't. I was born in Iron Mountain, Michigan with some significant medical complications. They airlifted me to Milwaukee Children's Hospital, where I spent the next 6 weeks in intensive neonatal care. They operated on me dozens of times to keep me alive. At 6 months, they amputated my left leg. I now walk and run for office with the assistance of a prosthetic. But I went back home. I graduated from Kingsford High School. I went off to Michigan State University. I got my degree in international relations and political economy. And I wanted to be a lawyer to fight for people that needed to be treated fairly under the law. But before I finished my degree, I realized that there were a group of individuals that needed someone to fight for them. And they were the people of Dickinson, Delta, and Menominee counties. So I went back home after my first year. I knocked on 10,000 doors. And I was honored to be elected state representative, even though my second favorite political party spent $500,000 to keep me out of here. But you knock on 10,000 doors and, well, if you actually care about people, you can usually win. And so why did I do it? Well, the cost of car insurance was far too expensive for the people of my district. It was 3 times cheaper to go and move a mile across the border into Wisconsin. And for my friends in Detroit, it was a lot cheaper in the UP. We still have a huge problem in your city and other big cities, but we were able to lower the cost of car insurance prices for the first time in 40 years. There's more work to be done, but I'm incredibly proud. I like to say I came here for internships and car insurance reform, and I'm all out of internships. So. But another big thing is that kids kept fleeing the Upper Peninsula of Michigan because they didn't think they could get a good paying job. And they didn't know they were paying $20 an hour down the road at the Boss Snowplow or Systems or CCI or Instrom Helicopter, all the other good, hardworking blue-collar jobs that we have. And I was able to get 30 pages of red tape cut down to 3 so our high school kids can get an internship for pay and high school credit. And so what drives me? I think the things that drive me most are bringing a voice to this government for the people that live 400, 500 miles away in the Upper Peninsula. And sometimes when you have to be the voice of a constituency that lives that far away, you might need to be a little bit louder than maybe others, and maybe you're used to, and maybe others are comfortable with. So if anybody was wondering why, that might be part of it. But more than that, it was my desire to make our world, and by extension our government, more equal, and equality of opportunity for all, and to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to succeed, and there is equality under the law. I'd like to leave a short bit of advice to my incoming politicians. Number one, don't be afraid of being called a politician. Everybody thinks that's a dirty word. Embrace it. You are a politician. It's not a bad word. Just be honest with the people. But number one is really be interested in your colleagues' staff. Be interested genuinely in their stories and what matters to them. And be nice, especially if you recently destroyed their bill in an open committee hearing. That's another good reason to be nice to people, especially right after that. And for anybody that was on the receiving end of that, I do apologize. My second bit of advice is, representatives, you don't work for the Speaker of the House. You don't work for the minority leader. You don't work for the lobbyists. You don't work for your colleagues. You don't work for anybody else but the 90,000 constituents and, most importantly, your conscience. I recommend to the next legislature that you bring back daily floor speeches in the House of Representatives, and you vote on floor amendments. For the betterment of the institution, we ought to do that just as the Senate does. Lastly, you're not elected to be a rubber stamp for the swaying, fleeting popular will of your 90,000 constituents. But nor are you to be a dictator. Do monthly office hours. Listen to your constituents' concern. Do not be paralyzed by public opinion. Again, do not think you're smarter than everybody else either. Greg, Sarah, Ed can all tell you stories of constituents back in the district who come up to me sometimes at the state fair and say, "Representative, you're arrogant, terrible, awful, no good, very bad state representative. I can't stand you. You're a jerk and terrible, and I disagree with every vote that you've ever cast. But don't worry, I'll be voting for you in November." And you wonder, why in the world could somebody think that I'm a good representative? Sometimes I wonder that myself. And I've come to realize it's because I do monthly office hours. I go on the radio and I explain in clear language where I'm coming from. And if you talk with your constituents and the people that you represent and be honest with them about why you voted one way or the other, and nobody has to wake up every day wondering, gee, I wonder why Rep so-and-so voted that way. I wonder if it was because of, and then let them speculate about what reason it was. If you tell them why you did it and are completely open and honest and transparent with them, they'll usually let you get away with a lot, which I needed, to be fair. A last small bit of advice is, don't try to repeal the bottle deposit law. Thanks, Joe, babe. Appreciate that one. I had to learn that one the hard way. But to the people of the 108th District who took a chance on a 24-year-old law school student who knocked on their door, thank you. It was the absolute honor and privilege of a lifetime. And in keeping with today's theme set by my colleagues in previous speeches of quoting American generals, let me leave you with the words of Douglas MacArthur as he was ordered to abandon the Philippines to the privations of a hostile army. I shall return. Thank you, Madam Speaker.